Medical school was exciting, inspiring, and very stressful. But looking back now that I'm 2 years graduated, I've spent some time working, and now I'm building a business, helping people learn and be more productive, I made it way more difficult than it had to be. So if I could transport back to my first day of medical school, this is how I'd do it. So first, a little bit about me, so you have some context about my experiences and my point of view. I'm Matty. I got an MD here in the US back in 2022. I studied at MCV, the Medical College of Virginia. I finished top quartile, and I never went to class. Actually, take that back. I did go to class for the first week of my M1 year, and then I never went to class again because I realized going to lecture was not going to be efficient for me. I get really distracted in that environment, and if I wasn't prepared for a marathon of lectures, since we had 4 straight hours of lecture every single day, I would get burnt out, I would zone out, and then it would be a waste of time. Now, I'm not saying that you should or you should not go to class. It's more about being honest with yourself, right? And creating a study routine that suits your lifestyle. For me, I was wasting 1 hour commuting round trip to school and back, 4 hours not learning in lecture. I was grumpy because I had to wake up early. And when I got home, I was tired because I was out all day. So knowing what I know now, this is what I would do. I would wake up whenever I felt refreshed or whenever the hell I wanted to. I would then do a quick pass on all 4 of the lectures for the day. Just skim through it, just get an overview of what I was about to cover. Then I'd probably go to the gym, make some lunch, chill out for a little bit. And by that time, hopefully the lectures would be posted from that morning. And now I can go through a second pass of the information, using 2x speed or skimming through even the recording, compare it to my notes from the morning and fill in all the gaps that I might have missed. And then I can just enjoy the rest of my day. This routine works way better for me. It keeps me from burning out and overall makes me a way happier human. And I think that's so key in medical school. It's a long 4 years ahead of you. You're gonna need to figure out how to sustain. And it starts with taking care of yourself and using all the best tools and resources at your disposal. You're gonna wanna use multiple resources and definitely digital resources. I know that there are some people who like to wear the medical school badge and play this hardworking student vibe, and they want to carry around all these huge, heavy textbooks. But to be completely honest, textbooks are not great resources. It is the 21st century now. We have this magical thing on all of our devices called Command F, which you can't do with a book. We also have this amazing thing called AI. Tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. And there are other tools on the internet like Boards and Beyond, Sketchy, UWorld, that are gonna help you develop a much more well-rounded perspective of what you're learning. And sure, you're gonna get arguments from the old heads that textbooks are what they used hundreds of years ago. They still were able to learn medicine back then. Sure, but we don't live 100 years ago, and we should be using the tools at our disposal. They're not going away, right? The hospitals are only going to get more integrated with technology, more integrated with AI, and we might as well learn how to use them to learn more effectively right now. But seriously, no one should be using textbooks anymore. At the very least, if you still want to use the textbook information, find a PDF version or a digital version that you can communicate with. In college, I made an active effort not to get textbooks and additional resources because I was lazy. And like most lazy students, I approached class thinking, well, if it's not going to be covered in lecture, then it probably won't be tested. But I realized really quickly a huge difference in medical school versus high school and even undergrad. You have to go out of your way to learn now. Lecture is not the only source of truth anymore, of information. There's so much more you have to learn that's not covered in class. Because in addition to the exams you take for school, what you're really preparing for are the board exams, right? Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3, which cover a huge range of topics and content that your instructors just don't have enough time to cover. I think at minimum, I would now be using 5 or 6 different resources at all times during all 4 years. Another huge benefit of using multiple resources is getting multiple takes on the concept, because maybe the way that your professor explains it is awful, right? And if you just keep rewatching that lecture over and over, trying to make it make sense, it's just a losing battle. You might as well go to ChatGPT, watch a YouTube video, ask your friends or something to try to explain it differently so that you can actually wrap your head around it. It's gonna be a lot faster. This ties in really well to the next piece of advice I always give my students is to make things simpler. That should be the first, second, third, and fourth thing you're focusing on when you're learning new information. Trust me, you're gonna have to learn a lot of stuff in medical school. It's gonna feel endless. So whenever you can, chunk ideas together, rephrase things so they're simpler, and that way it's gonna give you a lot more leeway and a lot more space to learn even the more complicated topics. Think of it like playing basketball. You need to learn how to dribble before you can do a crossover or a spin move or whatever the fuck this thing is, right? So this next tip is something that I wish I learned a lot sooner than I did. I know that cramming gets a bad reputation, but honestly, I think now if it's done properly, cramming can actually be kind of a super skill. Because if you think about what cramming is, it's all about, right, how do I squeeze and juice out as much learning as I can in the shortest amount of time possible. And that's exactly how we should be thinking about learning anything anyways. So having that cramming mindset means that we're always looking for what is the simplest thing, what's the most important thing, what's the biggest picture idea. That's how we should be learning anyway. So I would say take that part of cramming and then leave behind the part where it's the day before the exam. If you're gonna cram up front so that the rest of the learning gets easier. And then slowly fill in all the details with this next tip, which is that you do want to make it a thing to study a little bit every day, because learning is a cycle, right? The more reps you do, the better it's going to stick. And this is based on so much science. There's spacing, there's interleaving, there's active recall, and studying a little bit every day isn't even about improving our memory consolidation or the long-term retention through the spacing effect, which are also very important. It's more about turning studying into a habit that regardless of how you feel, regardless of if you're tired or not, regardless of whether or not you had a long shift, you're still gonna show up. That's what's gonna keep you on top of your shit. And trust me, just building that habit is gonna save you in the future. So those are all the ways that I would actually study. But now I want to move on to some of the mindset things, because mindset is probably much more important than the study skills, so we don't burn out and you actually make it to graduation. And so the first belief that I would hammer into my younger self to get out of their head is to stop worrying about grades. I think that going through the education system, we're told that grades equal good, that we should focus on grades because it is a signal that we are a smart and good student. And it wasn't until I think my third year when I was on a rotation that one of the residents noticed how stressed out I was, always trying to go study, and I would opt out of going to cases, I wouldn't see my patients on time, and of course the residents are the ones that evaluate us. And I remember during my feedback session with her, she said something that has stuck with me ever since then. Good grades don't make good doctors. A patient is ever gonna come up to you and ask you, what grade did you get in OB-GYN on your third year clinical rotation, right? No other doctor is gonna be like, what was your step 1 score or your step 2 score once you're already a practicing doctor. So I know that so many of us stress out about grades that we forget to enjoy the process of learning. I would barely show up to stuff. I wasn't really there when I was interacting with patients. My bedside manners were awful, and I wasn't really taking advantage of all these experiences and opportunities to get better. And from that moment forward, I really stopped caring about how well I would score, and I just focused on having fun. This is when I started my YouTube channel too, so I was also diversifying my interests, and it made medical school so much more fun, and it really pulled me out of like this bubble in my head of stress. That was a huge unlock for me. And obviously I'm not saying don't study. We just spent the whole first part of this video talking about how to study. It's more about this next mindset that you should adopt. And it's something from Zen Buddhism that I've always loved called Shoshin. Shoshin means a beginner's mind. I know that a lot of us feel like we have to present ourselves as smart, as capable, that we can't make mistakes, that we don't want to fuck up when we give a oral presentation or something. But you have to realize and understand you are a medical student. Nobody expects the student to be perfect, right? After all, you're a doctor in training, right? You're still in training. You have years to develop those skills. So really what your residents and attendings are looking for are the qualities of a successful doctor, not necessarily a successful doctor right now. What they're truly looking for, and this goes beyond doctoring into just life in general, is not someone who doesn't make mistakes. They're looking for someone who knows what to do when they make mistakes. You have plenty of time to become a good doctor, right? Some residency programs are 7 years long, depending on the specialty. But if you spiral into like anxiety and overwhelm, then you're never gonna get better. Now, way easier said than done, especially if you don't nail this next mindset here, which is to develop thick skin and not to take anything personally. Because trust me, you're gonna work with a lot of rude coworkers. You're gonna have some shitty partners and group members. You're gonna have difficult exams. You might get unfairly assessed or graded on something. You're gonna have crappy preceptors. You're gonna have terrible mentors. You're gonna have awful patients who are having the shittiest day of their life, and they're gonna take it out on you. Don't take it personally. It's all part of learning. Sometimes life sucks, I get it, but it really doesn't help anybody or yourself to throw a pity party about it. You can either be bitter or you can be better. And hint, you should always be the latter. And not taking things personally also comes with an understanding that you do sometimes have to pick your battles. You won't be able to learn everything. You won't be able to do every elective. You won't be able to see every patient. You won't be able to impress every doctor that you work with. And really, you don't have to. But you're gonna be learning and practicing medicine for a long time. So it's okay if you don't have time to get through all the zebras, all the obscure stuff, every single practice question. Think about it this way: a psychiatrist isn't expected to perform a C-section, and a gynecologist isn't expected to treat bipolar disorder. Medical school is standardized, so we do have to have like general knowledge about everything, but getting so deep into the nuances of something isn't gonna do you any favors. But on the flip side of that, I would also say if you do have genuine curiosity in a particular field, then I would definitely recommend you show up for those things in those classes. Because at the end of the day, medical school is supposed to help you figure out what kind of doctor you want to be. And you're only going to be able to figure out what kind of doctor you want to be is if you dip your feet into the things that interest you. So the final mindset I would say here is to set non-negotiable priorities for your life as well. I touched on this earlier in the video, but your happiness as a human is crucial for success. A lot of people might try to scare you that you're not going to have a life outside of medicine and you're going to be studying all the time, but it's really up to you. You can totally just go to class, and eat, sleep, breathe, dream medicine and study all day long. But if you learn how to prioritize well, you can actually have it all. And it gives you something to look forward to and a goal to have outside the grind, because the grind is long. It's really long. Don't put your life on hold. Continue to explore the things outside of medicine that give you joy, that you want to do, that you want to pursue. Like, I started a YouTube channel in medical school during my third year. I built a SaaS company called Remnote. I still had time to hang out with my friends, go to concerts, date people, because I made those things priorities. As counterintuitive as it might seem, priorities actually make us plan better, right? They force us to study more effectively and diligently so that we have time for the other things. Becoming a doctor isn't the end goal. And I think a lot of us feel like it is the ultimate end goal. But now that I'm graduated and I've moved on to other things, I realized that life comes in seasons. Right now, your season is probably getting into medical school or finishing this degree. The next season might be finding work that's fulfilling to you. And then it might be, I want to have a relationship and children. But your life doesn't have to be defined by a piece of paper or a title or whatever. So optimize for you, right? You're going to be the one going through all those different seasons. You are the common variable. That was a longer ramble and rant than I expected. Anyways, congratulations, enjoy your medical journey if you're starting it. If you're not, you just came for the vibes, thanks for sticking around. Love you guys, bye.